Yes, students, yesterday we discussed about the entity relationship model or ER model. So what is entity relationship model and ER model means? So we have the database in the table. We are presenting the table data in the form of the diagrammatically. So these are the components of the ER diagram. Components of the ER diagram, entities, attributes, relationship. So yesterday we discussed about the entities. Entity can be place, person, object, or event, or a concept. So these are the examples of entities. So any employee name, student name, patient name, person. Places means stores, buildings. Object means any machine, product, and car. Event means any sales and registration, renewal. Concept means account and the course. So these are the examples of the entities. So yesterday we discussed the entity. Here employee is the one entity and department is the another entity. And the next one is the examples of entity is that so a university have the sub departments. All these departments employ various lecturers and offer several programs. So again we have the two types of entities: weak entity and the strong entity. Weak entity and the strong entity. So what is meant by the weak entity and what is meant by the strong entity? Strong entity means it is an independent. It will not depend on anything, any other event or any other entity. Weak entity means it is dependent on another entity. So that is known as the weak entity. So example is the your parent is the in strong entity. Why? Because they are earning money, they will not depend on any other person. So you are the weak entity. So you can depend on your parents for pocket money or some to buy a book or something any other. You are the weak entity. Here, best example is the loan and installment. So based upon the loan, installment will increase or decrease. Depending upon the loan amount, the installment months will increase or decrease. If loan amount is very less, the installment months are decreased. If loan amount is huge, then installment months are increased. So based upon the loan, installment will be increase or decrease. So here loan is the strong entity and installment is the weak entity. Installment is the weak entity. So these are some differences between the strong entity and the weak entity. So strong entity set always has a primary key. We will discuss what is primary key in next class. It does not have enough attributes to build a primary key. We can see. So it is represented by a rectangle symbol. It is represented by the double rectangle symbol. So strong entity will represent only one rectangle symbol. Weak entity will represent with the double rectangle symbol. So if you have any primary keys in the strong entity, it will represent the by underline. So it contains a partial key which represents the dash underline symbol. So these are the again the member of a strong entity set is called as dominant entity set. The member of a weak entity set is called the subordinate entity set. So these are the few differences between the strong entity and the weak entity. So now we will discuss about the attribute. What is meant by the attribute? So here suppose if you want to create a one student table. Here table name is the entity. Table name is the entity. Student table name. Student, you are storing the student details. Then you can create the one student table. Here student table name is the entity. So column names are the attributes. Column names are the attributes. Means student ID, student name, phone number. Phone number are the attribute. So column names are called the attributes. The attribute is used to describe the property of an entity. Eclipse is used to represent an attribute. See, entity properties. We can describe the entity properties as attributes. Here, entity means table name. Suppose if you want to create the employee, if there is a employee table, table name is employee, then employee comes here, and employee ID, employee phone number, employee name, and employee age. These are the properties of entities: ID, phone number, name, and age. These are the properties of the student entity. The student entity. See here, we are converting the table data into the graphical representation. Graphical representation. So our table is the student table. Table name is the entity. Column names are the attributes. Column names are the attributes. Here our table name is the student. We represented in the rectangular symbol entity. So eclipse or circle. Eclipse or circle symbol. We are using this symbol to represent the attribute. Represent the an attribute. So using eclipse or circle symbol, we can represent the attribute. So attributes are nothing but columns in the table or properties of an entity. Properties of an entity. So this is the definition for the attribute. Again, we have the different types of attributes. So in the entity, we have two different types of entities, na? Strong entity, weak entity. So like that, and attributes also we have the some different types of attributes are there. Now we will discuss what are the different types of attributes. So first of all, I think you should understand the definition for attribute. Attribute is nothing but column name or property of an event. So these are the column names in the student table: student ID, student phone number, student name, and the age, student age. So again, we have the attribute type. First one is the key attribute. Key attribute. What is meant by the key attribute? Suppose in our student table, student ID is the primary key. Student ID is the primary key, then it is called the key attribute. So we can represent the key attribute with the underline, If there is any column with the underline, column represents that column represents the key attribute. That column represents as a key attribute. Once again, listen carefully. Key attributes means in our table, any column contains the primary key or candidate key. We will discuss what is the key, what is the purpose of the key, what is primary key, candidate key. We will discuss. Any column contains the any key. That key represents with the underscore, underline or underline. Suppose if phone number has the any key, then we will represent the phone number using underline. So in this table, we have the primary key for the or any key for the student ID column. Student ID column. That's why we are representing the ID as underlined. ID as underlined. In our table, any column contains any key, that column will represent with the underline. That is the key attribute. So this is the definition for the key attribute. So in our table, any column contains the any key, then that key attribute is called the key attribute. That key may be primary key, any key. So we will represent primary key attribute with the underline. So in this table, ID is the key attribute. That's why we are underlining the ID. Suppose if phone number has the any key, then we can underline the phone number. That is the key attribute. Next one is the composite attribute. So what is meant by the composite attribute? So already we discussed about one is the key attribute. Second type is the composite attribute. So itself it is saying an attribute that composed of many other attributes is known as the composite attribute. The composite attribute is represented by eclipse, and those eclipses are connected with an eclipse. See, composite means you can divide the one attribute into the multiple attributes. Suppose if there is a one attribute, name is a one attribute. You can what is that? You can divide this name into the some sub attributes. See, name has the first name, middle name, last name. Composite attribute. See, name has the first name, middle name, last name. So we are dividing the one attribute into the multiple attributes. We are dividing the one attribute into the multiple attribute. Composite attribute means we are dividing the one attribute into the multiple attributes. See here, name is a one type of attribute. Again, we are dividing that name into the three types. What are those three types? First name, middle name, and the last name. See here, take the remaining attributes. Age, phone number, ID. These are the not composite attributes because age. One person contains only one age. One person contains 10 years, 11 years, but not both the 11 years, 10 years. Okay. One student contains only one ID. Either 101, 102, 103, 104, but not 101, 102. So phone number also same, only one phone number like this. Okay, but we can divide the name into the again subparts. That's why it is called a composite attribute. So again, name has a three types. We can divide the three types: first name, middle name, last name. First name means our name, last name means our surname, middle name means we have if you have the large amount of your name, you can divide the first name and the second name. That is the composite attribute. So what is composite attribute? You can divide the one attribute into the multiple attributes. So that is known as the composite attribute. Example is the name. So we can divide the name into the first name, middle name, and the last name. Next one is the multi-valued attribute. So what is meant by the multi-valued attribute? So itself it is saying multi. Multi means more than one value. Multi-valued means more than one value. One attribute contains more than one value. So that attribute is called the multi-valued attribute. So once again, listen carefully. Multi-valued attribute means itself it is saying multi means more than one value. One attribute contains the more than one value. That attribute is known as a multi-valued attribute. So in this example, so here we have the multi-valued attribute means the phone number. So any person can contain a more than one phone number. More than one phone number. But name is not a multi-valued attribute. Why? Because one person contains the only one surname, only one name. Right? So that's why name is not a multi-valued attribute, ID is not a multi-valued attribute, and age is not a multi-valued attribute. So phone number is a multi-valued attribute. One person contains the one phone number, two phone numbers, and three phone numbers. Nowadays, maximum three phone numbers and two phone numbers like this. So that is the multi-valued attribute. So first one is the key attribute. Second one is the composite attribute. Next one is the multi-valued attribute. So this is the, we can represent the multi-valued attribute using the double eclipse. Using the double eclipse. See, this is the composite. So each one is connected to the this attribute, composite attribute. So name is the main attribute. These are the multiple attributes. So these are the connected to the this name attribute. So using eclipse, we can represent the multi-valued. So using the double eclipse. Next one is the derived attributes. What is meant by the derived attribute? Derived attribute. Derived, what is the general meaning of the derived? Derived means we are importing the some properties of already existing properties. We are importing the some existing properties. So derived. So here, what is the derived attribute? So based upon one attribute, we are creating the another attribute. Based upon one attribute, we are creating the another attribute that is known as the derived attribute. So example is the date of birth and age. So based upon the date of birth, you can calculate the age. Based upon the date of birth, you can calculate the one particular person age. So here age is deriving the from date of birth. Here age is deriving from the date of birth attribute. That is the definition for the derived attribute. So once again, I will repeat. Listen carefully. Based upon existing attribute, we are creating the another attribute that is known as the derived attribute. Example is the based upon the date of birth, you can calculate the age, a particular person age. So here, date of birth is the existing attribute. So based upon that, you are calculating the age. Age is the new attribute. Age is the new attribute. So that is the derived attribute. That is the derived attribute. See here. So you can represent the derived attribute with the dashed eclipse. Dashed eclipse. So based upon the student date of birth, you can calculate the student age. So this is the representation of this derived attribute. So you can represent the dashed eclipse. So these are the types of attributes. What are the types of attributes we discussed? So key attribute. So you can represent the key attribute using underline. So next one is the composite attribute means using one attribute you can generate the multiple attributes. So multi-valued attribute means you can one attribute contain a multiple values. Example is the phone number you can represent with the double eclipse. So derived attributes means based upon date of birth you can calculate the age. You can represent the dashed eclipse. These are the attributes, types of attributes. Key attribute, composite attribute, multi-valued attribute, and the derived attributes. We have the four types of attributes are there. So next one is these are the first component is entity. Already we discussed what is entity and types of entity. Next component is the attributes. Already we discussed what is the attribute, what are the types of attributes. Now next component is the relationship in the ER model. So we can discuss what is relationship here. A relationship is used to describe the relation between the entities. Entities. So if there are the two entities, we can define the relation between those two entities. So if there is any more than one entity in our table, so we can define the relationship between those entities that is known as the relationship. For example, here teacher and student. What is the relation between the teacher and student? Teacher teaches to the student. Teacher teaches to the student. Here, teachers is the relation. We can represent the relation with the symbol of diamond symbol. Diamond symbol. We can represent the relation with the diamond symbol. This is the diamond symbol. See, a relation is used to describe the relation between the entities. Here, teacher is a one entity and student is the another entity. Teachers is the relation between these two entities, teacher and student. So, diamond or rhombus is used to represent the relationship. So, this is the diamond symbol or rhombus as per mathematics. So this is the relation. So again, relation we have the types, like types of entities, types of attributes, like that. Here also we have the some types of relationships. So what are the types of relationships? Now we will discuss. I think you understood what is meant by the a relation. So a relationship is describing, we have to use that describe the relation between the two entities. What is that relation? So either the teacher and student, employee and CEO, or whatever it may be. So you can represent that relation with the diamond symbol. So again, one-to-one relationship. When only one instance of one entity is associated with the relationship, then it is known as the one-to-one relationship. See here, the example is that a female can marry to one male and male can marry to one female only. That is a one-to-one relationship. One-to-one relationship. A female can marry to only one male. Again, one male married to the only one female. One female. As per our Indian rules, so this is the rule. One female married to only one male and one male has to marry to only one female. That is the one-to-one relationship. That is the one-to-one relationship between two persons. Those are the male and female. Male and female. This is the example for the say one entity as associated with the another entity. Again, this left side entity and the right side entity has associated with the only one time. So that is known as the one-to-one relationship. Once again, I will explain. Listen carefully. So these are the two entities, female and male. This is the left side entity. This is the right side entity. So left side entity associated with the right side entity only one time, and the right side entity also associated with the left side entity with only one time. That is known as the one-to-one relationship. Best example is the female and male. Female married to male, only one male married to the only one female. Next one is the one-to-many relationship. Say when only one instance of an entity of the left. So this is the entity, instance of entity means left side, and more than one instance of an entity on the right side. So it is associated with the more than one instance of the right entity. So that relationship is known as the one-to-many relationship. See here, one scientist can invent many things. One scientist can invent many things. Here, scientist is only one person. Inventions is more than one. Inventions are the more than one. So this is the one-to-many relationship. So see here, only one instance of the entity is associated with the so many times with the right side entity. So that is known as the, see, this is the definition when only one instance of the entity. So scientist is the only one and more than one instance of an entity on the right side. So many inventions are the right side associates with the relationship. So invention is the relationship. Then this is known as one-to-many relationship. Example is the scientist. One scientist can invent more than one invention. So one scientist can invent the laptop. One scientist can invent the mobile phone like this. This is the one-to-many relationship. So next one is the many to one relationship. We will discuss what is meant by the many to one relationship. When more than one instance of the entity of the left. So this is the instance of entity left side and only one instance of an entity on the right side. Right side. So here left side is the many, right side is the only one. With the relationship, then it is known as the many to one relationship. So example is the many students can enroll into the one course. Suppose if you are studying the BSc, So in BSc course, so many students are there. Here course is only one. BSc course is the only one. So many students are there. One more example is there is another course. Suppose BCom. In BCom course is the one. So students are the so many. Maybe the 60 students are there. 40 students are there. 120 students are more than 120 students are there. Students are is the many students. Course is only one. So this is the many to one relationship. This is the many to one relationship. Next one is the many to many relationship. Next one is the many to many relationship. What is meant by the many to many relationship? See here, when more than one instance of the entity on the left and more than one instance of an entity on the right associate with a relationship, then it is known as the many to many relationship. For example, employee can assign by many projects and project can have the many employees. See, this is the take the employee. An employee can done the many projects. Any project can have the so many employees. This is the relation is assigned from many to many. These are the types of relationship. Types of relationship. So what are the components of the entity relationship model? Entity, attributes, and next one is the relationship. The components of the see three components: basic concept, entities, attributes, relationship. So we discussed all the three things. What is entity? Types of entity. So next one is the what is attribute? Types of attributes. And next, what is relationship and the types of relationship. This is very, very important for the essay question. Now, we will discuss about the keys in the database management system. Keys in the database already. Key attribute we discussed in the previously. Key attribute. So, what is meant by the key? What is the functionality of the key? What is the role of the key in the database management system? What are the types of keys are there in the database management system? Now, we will discuss. Now, we will discuss. Explain about keys in the RDBMS or DBMS. Keys play an important role in relational database. It is used to uniquely identify any record or row of data from the table. It is also used to establish and identify relationship between tables. Between tables. Yes, listen. Keys can play an important role in the database management system and in relational database management system. Using one key, you can easily identify any record in the table. Any record in the table. Or you can retrieve the any record from the table. Any record from the table. Here record is nothing but row. Here record is nothing but a row in a table. In a table. I think now you can understand what is key. Key is an important role, important in a table. So using key, you can identify any record in the table or you can retrieve the record from the tables using the keys. So using keys, you can establish the relation between the tables also. This is the main functionality of the key in the relational database management system. So using key, you can identify the records uniquely in the database or you can retrieve the records from the table and you can establish the relationship between the tables. This is the functionality of and role of the keys in the relational database management system and database management system. See here, there is a table, student and the person, both. Both the tables we have. In student ID, we have the key. Here, name, we have the key. Name, address, course, and passport number, license number, and SSN number are the keys. So, based upon the ID, suppose if you type the student ID 101, automatically it will display the name, address, course. If it is a key, you can automatically will get these details. If it is not key, it is not possible. See here, name. Name is a key here. Using name, so duplicate names are also there. Suppose my name is Ratnam. So many Ratnams are there. Then how you can identify particular Ratnam? No, it is not possible. But using ID is a key. If you implemented any key to the column in the table, that key, that column will not accept the duplication of the data. Duplication of the data. Then we can easily identify the particular record. So these are the types of keys. Primary key, candidate key, super key, foreign key. How many keys are there? 4 types. Primary key, candidate key, super key, foreign key. Now we will discuss one by one. What is primary key? What is candidate key? What is super key? What is foreign key? Super key. A super key is a group of single or multiple keys which identifies rows in a table. A super key may be additional attributes that are not needed for the unique identification. See example. So EMP SSN is the one key. EMP num also one key. EMP name also. See, this is the one key. This is another key. So if you enter the EMP SSN number, automatically you will get the EMP num and the EMP name. If you enter the EMP number, then you can get the EMP SSN number, EMP name. So what is the definition? A super key is a group of single or multiple keys. So multiple keys. See, multiple means EMP number is a one key. EMP SSN is a another key. So these are the multiple keys or group of single keys. So that is the super key. Next one is the primary key. So this is the very powerful key in the database management system. Primary key is a very powerful key in the database management system. Primary key is a column or group of columns in a table that uniquely identify every row in the table. The primary key cannot be duplicated, meaning the same value cannot appear more than once in a table. A table cannot have more than one primary key. So see here, so many super keys are you can implement in the one table. But in a table, you can implement the primary key for only one column. A table cannot have more than one primary key means a table contains only one primary key for one column in a table. So using primary key, you can avoid the duplication of data. Suppose if you are creating the primary key for student ID, student ID. Student ID starting with the suppose 101. So you can enter the 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110 like this. Suppose if you forgot so 106, if you again enter the 106, it will not accept. Then it will show the message. This is the already existed 106. Then you cannot enter the 106 once again. Once again. That is the power of the primary key. So primary one table contains the only one primary key value. That means in the one table you can apply the primary key for the only one column. One column. Primary key does not accept the duplication of data. Duplication of data. So that's why it is a powerful and important key in the database management system. Yes, these are the some rules they given by the database management system to implement the primary key in your table. Two rows cannot have the same primary key values. That is the first rule. Two rows. Two rows. Suppose 101 is a one row, 102 is a one row. For that, you cannot implement the two primary keys, only one primary key. It must for every row to have the primary key value. Okay, primary key value means there is no duplication. The primary key field cannot be null. Cannot be null. You cannot fill the empty. Suppose 101. After 101, you cannot keep the next row one as a empty. You have to fill the must and should. You have to fill that column. Cannot be null. This is also another type of role. Next role is the value in a primary key column can never be modified or updated if any foreign key refers to that primary key. So if you created the one primary key to a student ID, that student ID is there in some table, in some other table, in some other table, in some other table. So this primary key is related to that student ID using foreign key. Then that time you cannot modify, you cannot update that field. This is the example. Student ID, roll number, first name, last name, email ID. So here ID is the student ID is the primary key. Next one is the candidate key. What is meant by the candidate key here? Candidate key is a set of attributes. What is attribute here? Column names. See here, student ID, roll number, first name, last name, email. These are the attributes or column names. So it is a set of attributes that uniquely identify tuples in a table. Tuples means rows. So this is the first row. This is the second row. So rows are called the tuples. Columns are called the attributes. Yes, once again listen. In database management system, there is a technical a name for the columns. That is the attribute. The technical name is the attribute. There is a technical name for the rows. That is the tuple. You can identify easily tuple. Candidate key is a super key with no repeated attributes. With no repeated attributes. So candidate key is also same as super key with no repeated means no repeated columns. See here, student ID one column, roll number one column, first name, last name, email. Suppose if you want to create the one more email here, it will not accept column name. That is the candidate key. The primary key should be selected from the candidate keys. Every table must have at least one single candidate key. Every table, if you created the table, it must should have one single candidate key. A table contains the multiple candidate keys, but a table contains only one primary key. See, these are the some properties. It must contain unique values. Candidate key may have multiple attributes, must not contain null values. It should contain minimum fields to ensure uniqueness, to uniquely identify each record in the table. These are the some properties. Like we discussed there are some roles and responsibilities of the primary key. Like that here also they mentioned the some properties of the candidate's key. Next one is the foreign key. Yes, listen. What is the purpose of the foreign key? So this is the Viva question also. Anybody asked any external key, if you want to attend any interview, so definitely they will ask how you can establish the relationship between the two tables. Then you have to say the primary key and using foreign key. And primary key primary key name and the attribute and the foreign key attribute is the same, but it is contains in two different tables. In two different tables. So how it will, I will let you know. See, here it is the teacher ID, F father name, first name, last name. Here also, teacher ID, department code, first name, last name. What is the difference between first table and the last second table? Here we have the first name and the last name only in teacher ID in first table. In second table we have the department code also. Department code also. See here teacher ID is the primary key in this table. Again, here also we have the teacher ID. Here it is the foreign key. Here it is the foreign key. So using these two keys, you can maintain the relationship between the two tables. Using primary key and foreign key, you can maintain the relationship between the two tables. In one table, teacher ID is the column name. See, teacher ID is the column. This is the primary key in this table, and again in another table also I have the same column name teacher ID, same values. So here it is the foreign key. Here it is the foreign key. So then using these two keys, primary key and foreign key, you can establish the relationship between any two tables. Suppose if you establish the what is the purpose of the establishing the relationship between two tables? Any idea? Anybody? Say, if you establish the relationship between any two tables, no need to write the more queries. So using this ID, you can get the first name, last name, as well as department code also. Department code also. So if there is no relationship between, you are unable to get the department code. So for that purpose, again you have to write one more query. So that is the advantages of the maintaining the relationship between two tables. Using primary key, foreign key, you can establish the relationship between two tables. If you establish the relationship between two tables, then you can access the data in using in any one table. All the all the columns you can access. That is the purpose of the establishing the relationship between the any two tables. So these are the keys. So primary key, candidate key, super key, foreign key. Explain about conversion of ER diagram into relational database. See, this is the ER diagram. Student, name, address, age, ID. Then simply you this is the diagram. You have to convert this diagram into the table. So here table name is the student. So ID is the column name. This is the primary key. And next name, address, age. Simple. See, we have the four columns, ID, name. Like this, you can convert the diagram into the tables. These are the multiple choice questions from first unit. I think no need of these things for you. And one fill in the blanks. These are the answers for the multiple choice. One more questions. I think these also you no need. Yes, are you able to understand? Are you able to understand my teaching? Give me response.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So, relational database integrity. Integrity constraints. So, we will discuss what is integrity constraints. This is also very, very important in the database management system. We have to maintain the integrity constraints. Integrity constraints are a set of rules. It is used to maintain the quality of information. So why we need the integrity constraints means to maintain the quality of information in the database management system. We have to follow the integrity constraint rules. So integrity constraints ensure that the data insertion, updating, and other processes have to be performed in such a way that the data integrity is not affected. Suppose if you are inserting the any values, updating and deleting and modifying, it will not affect on any other records. So integrity constraint used to guard against a accidental damage to the database. So it is a one type of protector for the database management system. So these are the types of integrity constraint: domain constraint, entity integrity constraint, differential integrity constraint, key constraint. So we will discuss what is domain constraint, what is entity integrity constraint, what is differential integrity constraint, what is key constraint. So first we will discuss about the domain constraint. So what is meant by the domain constraint? See, I will not read the this definitions. These are the two definitions. Just I will explain the example. Based upon that, you can generate your own definition. See here, this is the table. This is the table. In this table, I have the four columns: ID, name, semester, age. So in this, I am filling the so and so details. So ID is the 101, so and so triple X, and for semester, age is the 24 like this. So instead of digits, age, instead of digits, by mistake, I entered the alphabetical letters. Then that time it will give you the error message. It will not allow. It will not. Alphabeticals are not allowed here in this page. Why? Because age is an integer attribute. Age is an integer attribute. See here, it is the ID. In ID also, instead of zero, sorry, value, these digits. If you entered any alphabetical, then also it will display the error message. This is called the domain integrity. This is called the domain constraints. Domain constraints. So what is meant by the domain constraints? If you are creating the table, in the table you have the some columns. So if you are filling the rows, then that time, if it is numerical data, you have to enter the only numerical data. If it is string data, then you have to enter the only string data. If it is both combination of numerical and the alphabetical, you can enter the numerical and alphabetical. So that is the domain constraint. That is the domain constraint. The next one is the entity integrity constraints. These are the definitions for the integrity constraint. The entity integrity constraint states the primary key value cannot be null. This is because primary key value used to identify the individual rows in a relation. A table can contain the null value other than the primary key field. See, entity integrity constraint means I have the one table. That table name is the employee. In that I have the employee ID, employee name, salary columns. I am filling the rows now. 123 is employee ID, so and so name, so and so salary. So last column is the empty. I didn't give the employee ID here. So it will not be accepted. Why? Because employee ID is a primary key. Primary key. Primary key will not be the null value. Primary key will not contain the null value. So if you kept the null here, it will give the one message to you. Employee ID you have to fill. It is not an empty. It is not null value. Why? Because it is a primary key. That this is the entity integrity constraint. Next one is the referential integrity constraint. See, a referential integrity constraint is specified between the two tables. In the referential integrity constraint is a foreign key and table one. So this is the keeping the relation between the two tables using primary key and the foreign key. See, this is the table one. Employee name, EMP name, age, department number. Here also we have the department number, department location. Say 11, 24, 13. These are the same values, but 18 is not there here. 18 is not, sir. 18 is not allowed as the department number. 18 is not defined as a primary key of table 2. Here department number is the primary key here. 11, 24, 34. We have only 11, 24 and 34. Those primary key values we have in the another table as the foreign key 11, 24, 13 only, but not you cannot add the another value here, It is not possible. Then if these primary key and foreign key values are the same, then only it is possible to establish the relation between two tables. Here it is not possible. Why? Because these values are not same. Here we have the only 11, 24, 13. Here one more value is additional. So if you want to keep the relation between these two tables, you have to remove this 18th column, 18th row. So this is the referential integrity constraint. Next one is the key constraint. So what is meant by the key constraints? In this table, I have the ID, name, semester, age. Okay, clear? See, we will discuss the keys are the entity set of that is used to identify an entity within its entity set uniquely. An entity set can have multiple keys, but out of which one key will be the primary key. A primary key can contain a unique and null value in the relational table and does not have the null value in the relational table. Yes, what is key constraint means? Suppose ID is a primary key ID. This column belongs to the primary key. If you are creating the primary key for the ID, so it is repeating 1000, 1001, 1002, 1003, again 1002. If you want to insert 1002, it will not allow because row must be unique. Why? Because ID column you already implemented the primary key. Primary key will not allow the duplication of data and null values So here 1002 is already existed in the table. Again, if you want to insert, it is not possible. It is not possible. This is the key constraint. This is the key constraints. These are the integrity constraints in the database management system. Using the integrity constraints, you can maintain the quality of the information. Quality of the information. So what are the types of integrity constraints are there? Domain constraint, entity integrity constraint, differential integrity constraint, and the key constraints. Domain constraint means, so if you declare the, if you want to insert the numerical values, you have to insert only numerical values, but not alphabetical values. It is not possible to enter the alpha. Entity integrity constraint means, so there is no null values in the table. There is no null values in the table. Differential integrity means foreign key values and the primary key values are the same. If there is any variation is there, it is not possible to keep the relationship between the two tables. Key constraint means there is no duplication of the values in the existing in the table. Okay, is it clear? So in the next class we will discuss about the normalization. So we have the 5 types of normalizations, and there is a BCNF also. In your syllabus, you have the only up to the BCNF only. We will discuss what is normalization, what is file organization, what is index file organization. Like this, we will discuss in the next class. After that, we will discuss about the SQL, how you can create the tables, how you can insert the values into the tables, how you can modify, how you can alter the table. Like this, we will discuss. This is very, very important. Normalization. Don't miss the tomorrow's class. Normalization is very, very important for the in exam. Without normalization question, there is no question paper. Either it is supplementary or main exam, whatever it may be. So this question is the damn sure gunshot question for essay. Normalization. Don't miss the tomorrow's class. In first class, some 75 members are there. Yesterday 35, today 25. So daily you are decreasing. Thank you for your cooperation. Thank you. Bye bye.